Now that we have a page to show restaurants, we're going to need to define what a restaurant looks like. Now, in a simple project, I would simply add a new folder to the Ode to Food project, perhaps name that folder Entities or Models or Core or Domain, and define a restaurant class inside of that folder. But I want to show you how to work with your models or your entities in a separate project. This can be useful, particularly in larger applications where you need to reuse this code. So I'm going to right-click on the solution, and I want to add a new project. And I want to make this a .NET Core class library. Again, this is something you can do from the command line with .NET New. Well, let's call this project Ode to Food.core. It's going to represent those classes and types and processing algorithms that are the core of the business or the core of the application. And what is this application primarily concerned about? It's primarily concerned about restaurants. So I want to delete class1.cs that is in the project and instead right-click and say that I want to add a class, and let's call this class restaurant.cs. Or rather, that's the file name with the restaurant class inside. This will be a public class, and we just need to define the properties that we need to store or the information that we want to store about a restaurant. So let's define a property to store the name of a restaurant. Let's also just generically define a location. Of course, you could make that an address that includes a street and a postal code and a city and a country. But with everything I'm going to show you, you can extrapolate out from location to that more complex data structure. I also want to add some sort of identifier field because ultimately we're going to store these restaurants inside of a database, and every restaurant will have an ID that is an integer. And then just to make things interesting, let's store information about the type of cuisine that a restaurant serves. So I will create a new enum named cuisine type. The default type will be none. And then let me just add a few additional cuisine types. So just going by the most popular cuisines that are served here in America, there's Mexican, there's Italian, and there's Indian. Now typically I keep every type in a separate file. I can do that in Visual Studio. If I put the cursor on cuisine type, press Control period, there's the refactoring option to move this to cuisine type.cs, which is good. And now I just want to add a property to my restaurant of type cuisine type, and let's just call it cuisine. I'm going to press Control K, Control D to do some formatting. That will also remove the unnecessary usings that I have. And this is the restaurant data we're going to work with.